Welcome to this tutorial brought to you by River City Graphics. Today I'll be showing you how to create seamlessly tiling patterns out of complex images. So to get started, we're going to open up Photoshop. And here you can see I have a granite texture. And so what we're going to be doing today is basically if we took this granite texture and copied and pasted it on all sides, so basically on the X and Y, currently it would have seams in between it. You'll be able to tell that that's what we did because the pixels on this side would not match up with the pixels on this side and also on the top and bottom. So let me give you an example to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm basically just going to create a new layer, and then I'm just going to click back onto my granite layer, and with my marquee tool I'm just going to select the texture, go to edit, and then down to define pattern, and I'm just going to call this texture before and click OK. And so now basically we've created a pattern out of that, and so I'm just going to turn off that layer, go to my blank layer, hit Alt Delete with white as my foreground color to fill that, because you have to have something on the layer, so a solid color if you're going to be adding a pattern. So I'm just going to go down at the bottom of my layers palette and go to the little FX button, go down to pattern overlay, and then we're going to select the pattern from the little drop down, and I'm just going to select it right here. And so this is obviously still a solid piece, so I'm just going to hit the scale down and click OK. And so now if I zoom in, you can see exactly what's happening here. You can see that there's lines within that, and it's even more evident right here. You can see exactly where the pattern is and where it starts and ends. So what we're going to be trying to do is to get rid of that. So I'm just going to take and delete this layer and go back to our original. And the way that we're going to start by doing that is by going up to Filter and then down to Other and then to Offset. So now what Offset does is it basically, let me just set these back to 0. It basically takes, and when you move this horizontal higher, it will take and move basically your entire image to the right, but then it'll start coming back in from the left. So basically it'll make sure that the pixels on the right match the pixels on the left. So what we're trying to do is, it's probably hard to see right here, it's a little hard for me to see and I'm not even watching it on YouTube, is we're looking for a crosshair, and it'll be easier when you're actually doing this to see it. And so I'm just going to click OK. Here I can see it right here. We're looking for this like seam line, and so I'm just going to click OK, and then I can zoom in so you can see it better. So you can see now there's obviously 4 different like quadrants here. And so what we're doing is basically we need to get rid of that seam, because right now this right here will match up with this over here. So we've created our seamless pattern. The only problem is now we have these lines in the middle. So what we need to do is get rid of those, and you can do that in a couple of ways. So you can either use like a clone stamp tool, you can use the spot healing brush, or you can use what we're going to use today, which is the patch tool. And so basically the way the patch tool works is you can either select a source, which would be in our case the line, and you can take and move it onto something else, or you can select a destination, which would be like basically the reverse. We'd select something and then we drag it onto what we wanted to replace. So what we're trying to do is just basically get rid of the lines, and the way that it does this is it basically tries to match the texture of what we're basically replacing it with, so it kind of blends it in really nice. If you were doing something like the clone stamp tool, it looks for like an exact, it would basically replace it with something exact, so you wouldn't get the nice blending effect that the patch tool would give you. So that's why we chose to use that. So I'm just going to keep working on these lines. Alright, almost done here. Get that. And so what we're also looking for while we're doing this is things like this black over here. You see, let me zoom in on that. You can see this black area. Now this isn't really a problem for our tiling, but it is a problem for viewing it. Basically, if you have something like that black spot that might draw attention to itself and you start tiling your pattern, it might give the effect that you're actually doing a pattern, and what we're trying to do is hide that. So by removing little things that would give away your pattern as being tiled, like if you see a bunch of black dots, you're kind of going to know that something's happening there. So what you're trying to do is just make it as inconspicuous as possible. So I think we've done a pretty good job. You might want to touch yours up a little more, but just for the purposes of time, you get the idea. We're just trying to get rid of the lines. So once you have that done, what we're going to do is I'm just going to take and scale this down so that we can tile it a little bit better. And once I do that, again, you create your pattern by taking and grabbing your marquee tool, or I guess any other selection method. And I'm just going to zoom in a little bit here so I can get an exact. So you want to be pretty darn close on this. You don't want to grab any extra pixels, otherwise it'll mess up your pattern. So you want to see, I'm off just a tiny bit there, but for the purposes of this tutorial it should work, but ideally you'd want those other pixels. So what I'm going to do is then go up to Edit and then down to Define Pattern, and we'll call it Texture After. Hit OK. Alright, so then what I'm going to do is again create another layer, turn off the first layer, go up to my new layer, fill it with white by hitting Alt-Delete with white as the foreground, go to FX, down to Pattern Overlay, and then I'm going to select this new pattern. And you can see it's at 100% and we made it smaller so we know that it's tiling, and so I'm just going to click OK, and you can see there's no seams. It looks like a solid piece of granite all over the place. So this is pretty handy. You can use this for not only Photoshop documents, like if you wanted to make a background, it would be much quicker to do this than to take and just paste them out over and over and over. So using patterns, and especially if they tile, it's much easier. And you can also use it for web design. Say that you wanted to do like a background for your website. You could use this in order to tile your background to keep your image size small, and you could just repeat it with your CSS and everything. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and comment, and I'll see you next week with a new video tutorial. Thanks for watching.